compost, the ladybug compost. Mix about 1 bag of that with every 6 or 8 bags of cypress mulch, and you'll make it a much, much better mulch. Yes, ma'am.
If you mulch around trees, how close can you get it to the...
You just want air circulating around the trunk. You can be up within 2 or 3 inches of it, but don't actually pile it up against the trunk.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you're piling it over the base of things like hibiscus and bougainvilleas, ixoras, things that may freeze, brugmansias, things like that, wash it away in the spring. You don't want it piled up around the trunk all the time. We're just putting it over it in the spring or over it in the fall like a blanket to help it get through the winter. But then we want to take it away the next spring so you get air circulation around those trunks. Yes, sir.
I was at Fort Sam, Houston. I was up there for a friend's funeral, and they hired someone to compost around all those gorgeous trees, about 6 to 10 inches. Just pile that up right.
I hate to say it, when it comes to the way that cemetery is maintained, it really would convince you that military intelligence is a real oxymoron. They've done that to the trees after they've gone around with the weed eaters and stripped the bark off. Most of those trees are dead. They're wasting their time. Because you cut the bark all the way around the tree, it girdles it. And I've never, thank you for coming, certainly. Some of the worst tree girdling I've ever seen has been to the last couple of services that I've been to out there. They ruined virtually every tree in the cemetery with the weed eaters, and now they're piling the mulch up against the trunks, which is going to hurt them even more.
And
if you have any influence, try to help them see the error of their ways. But if your rank is less than general, don't waste your time.
Well, I knew the manager who was there a few years ago, and I mentioned that to her. But now it's much worse.
I get so frustrated trying to tell people anything.
And we are the ones that pay for some of those trees.
Oh, I know. I've delivered trees out there to be planted.
Yeah.
But no, unfortunately, it's like there's a conspiracy against the trees out there. But most of them are going to die anyway from weed eater damage. I would look at trees that kind of went like this out there. And once you cut through that phloem and the cambium layer, that tree's dead if you cut all the way around. Nothing you can do about it.
Oh, I have a farming question.
Uh-huh.
My son, he had his watermelon crop wiped out down in Dilley with that red fungus they got this year. And then he, had a second batch, and he was surprised that it came back. But luckily, the melons by then were big enough. So, how long is that red fungus going to stay around? And
I don't think anybody really knows. In healthy soils, it would never show up in the first place. I tell them to try an experimental area with whole ground cornmeal, and I'll bet you will have no problem.
Is that a powdery mix? Like, how would he apply it? Yeah. So you just
go to a feed store.
Okay.
You can buy it cheaper at a feed store than we can buy it.
And to the ground, or because it had gotten on the. Okay.
Yeah, just sprinkle it all over the ground. I suspect that if he really shops around, goes to a producer's co-op or somewhere like that, he can probably buy it for $4 or $5 a bag, which is a third of what we pay for it. But he can afford to put it out. Like I say, peanut farmers up in the Stephenville area do hundreds and thousands of acres with it to stop fungus. I'd be willing to bet you it will stop the fungus that's hurt the watermelons.
I wish you'd have a seminar for the farmers, because I'm trying to talk him into organic, and it's too expensive, and people won't pay. And I'm like, oh yes, I'll pay for it.
He's listening to his chemical fertilizer dealer.
Yeah.
I'll never forget Howard Garrett talking about having gone up and convinced one of the golf courses to try doing the organic stuff on the green. And so they did, like one green on their little practice greens, did it all organic. The other one they did, with their standard treatment. The next spring, the standard treatment was about half dead. The one with the organic treatment was in beautiful shape. And he went out and they were talking with the greenskeepers and people. And whoever the head greenskeeper was came out, and Howard said, "Man, can you believe the difference in these two greens?" And he said, "I don't see any difference." He said, "What do you mean you don't see any difference?" He says, "No, they look the same to me." And he turned around and walked off. And Howard's just sitting there kind of shaking his head. And one of the assistants says, "You don't realize he just got back from Hawaii. The fertilizer companies give these guys free trips all over the world and everything else to get them to use their product."
It's a shame, because it's poison.
Yep. Yeah, there are a lot of and we've had customers, a couple of recently, talked about family members. Golfers are not necessarily dumb. I used to play golf when I was in college, even though Mark Twain described it as a good walk spoiled. But I've seen golfers that before they putt, they'll take that golf ball and pop it in their mouth to clean it.
Oh, no.
Most of the people, but there have been 2 or 3 people I know have died of cancer recently, because you're getting the worst stuff in the world. That's what those little washers are for, if you're gonna be that serious about it. But golf courses, had a lady in a while back that had just lost her dog to a bad cancer called hemangiosarcoma. And she said, said, I just don't understand it. Our yard is 100% organic. We never use anything. And hemangiosarc is one thing that's really tied to weed killers. And then she thought a minute, and she said, but said my husband took our dog walking every day out on the golf course. Dan Kirby says when people come in and their animals have some of the bad cancers, first thing he asks them is, do you use weed killers? And said in virtually every case, it's, oh yes. And remember, those weed killers, the 2,4-D that's sold as clover killer and things like that, every Home Depot in the world sells a ton of it. They put it in weed and feed products. That's half of what Agent Orange was that was used in Vietnam. It's just bad stuff. You don't need it. And boy, don't be walking barefoot on the golf course, let me tell you that, unless it's Tierra Verde or one of the few that's doing things organically. Yes, sir.
Can you identify this for me?
That is almost certainly a Ponderosa lemon, I'm going to guess. It's either an improved Meyer, but yeah, it's well, I don't know.
They get that's thin skin. A lot of them get the skin twice as thick as that and a very small kernel in the middle.
Where did you get it?
It grows on a tree in our yard.
I'll bet you it's some form of Ponderosa lemon.
It looks like a lemon tree and it has the thorns on it and everything. So it's edible.
Absolutely.
It just has big skin.
Yeah.
Very
It's thick,
thick
thick
skin.
skin. The improved forms don't have that. They have a thinner skin. But taste it. I think you'll find it to be delicious.
Oh,
Makes excellent
They get
lemonade,
bigger
or
than that.
as we like to say, some adult beverages as well.
They get bigger than this. They
Oh,
get
yeah.
the size of grapefruit.
Yeah.
Ponderosa lemon.
Yeah, that's what I feel fairly certain it is.
I have a question about gardening.
Uh-huh.
And I think we're still in shock from the